got a couple of um, we got a couple of questions, pre-submitted questions, and we'll go ahead and get started with those. First question is from Cebu. Is decisions a tool meant for building UI apps, or is it meant for building process flows which end with a certain time? Follow-up question there. Can a flow which has blocking controls like a form be executed in parallel by multiple users without any issues? So for the first question, decisions is a tool to build. You can build UI elements, but really it's more for decisions UI. Like you can post a flow or post like a decision report as like a UI interactive element. But more so we use decisions for building logic and rules. You can use it for that. You can host decisions itself in the iframe, and then use that from whatever website you're hosting, or you can have your users just log in directly into decisions and then work all their processes within the decisions platform themselves. And yes, for a flow that has blocking controls that use forms and things in parallel, yes, you can use what we call asynchronous behavior on the process. So if you wrap your flow within an async flow, it will generate an assignment, and for every user in that group, that assignment will get sent out to them. And so you can have multiple users work multiple assignments or one assignment just based on using like async behavior. I don't know Cebu's on, but those are really answers for his questions there. And then a question from Jeff. I don't know if Jeff is on the call, and I would like for him to join the call before I answer this. But he had a question. I'm trying to read files from a network drive, but the list files and directory looks to only work in some cases for me, though the network read all text works fine, but just in the contents of the file. For that one, I'd like to see that in action. So I'd like to, I'd hope Jeff would be on the call to actually show me this behavior, because depending on how that is behaving, we'd like to get a support ticket in for that. Those cover the pre-submitted questions. Do any of the current participants, VT and Renu, do you guys have any questions? Yeah, I'd like to see what he's configuring there and what directory he's expecting to see from that step. But I can wait for Jeff if he does join. If not, we can I can go into, and what I'll do today, I'm going to go into a bit of some of the tools we use on the support team to sort of check sort of system health and what the machine is doing and how to sort of diagnose issues. So let me share my screen to my environment. And everyone should be able to see my decisions instance. And so I'll go into a couple of tools we use on the support team to, troubleshoot and diagnose issues. The most, if not all, these actions are going to be found in your system folder. You should have access to this if you are a designer that has access to the system folder or an admin on the system. So normally you'll see, if you don't have access, you won't see this little gear icon. And so we'll start here in system administration and system tools. So we have a couple of different tabs here. Automated testing, we don't really use much in support. That may be used for like testing your sort of solution, but we focus mainly on a couple of items here. So the event viewer, flow management, the logging, and the profiler. And so starting with the event viewer, we have a bunch of system events that we sort of log out and audit here. One being one of the nicest ones, the account login history. You can see whenever a user has logged into the system and what date those logins were. If the user logs out, you'll see that logout date. If not, you will just have blank here. We have our active users reports that will show all the users that are currently logged into your system. So it's a good idea. So if you're ever, experiencing high volume of users, you can there confirm, how many users on average we have on the system. And then if you need to increase or increase the system or up spec or, need to set like clustering, you can sort of make that call based on numbers. You can get those numbers here. Boot history catches when the server starts. I don't believe this catches if a system goes down. I believe only catches when it goes up. So I don't believe we catch if a machine crashes via this. This is helpful if we're, trying to track down when the machine was going down or if it restarted, that sort of thing. We also use the data structure status as a really good tool for us to sort of troubleshoot if there's an issue with the data structure. We can see if it's loaded. If it isn't loaded, we'll see it in like an invalid state. This is really good for sort of troubleshooting data structure issues that may occur. We also use the system activity. If we're seeing slowness on the system, or this is a good tool to sort of check and see what's running on the system. We catch like flow starts, flow step runs, rule execution, thread job status, or thread jobs, that sort of thing. So this is really good to see like what the system is doing. So if there is like slowness, or you're wondering why your process is experience why your server is like experiencing slowness, this is a good tool to just see what's running currently. And the thread jobs is another really good tool that we use. And so if you're running a bunch of jobs, or if you're, wondering slowness, an issue could be that your machine is just fighting for threads, right? You have multiple processes running, multiple threads running. You having a bunch of threads on the machine can cause slowness in the entire platform. So normally, no one's working. You'll see thread jobs around 37 to like maybe 45. But if you're starting to see thread jobs go up into the thousands or 10,000s, then you have to, start identifying, looking at your process, right? Because most likely some of the issues are due to the number of thread counts. Those are some of the tools that we use in Event Viewer. I'm not going to go into detail about everything, but we have our documentation if you have more questions or want to get in more detail about some of the things I've looked into. The next portion I'm going to look into or show you is the flow management portion. And flow management is really good to sort of keep track of what flows are doing. In this case, I have a whole bunch of auto trigger flows and a stored workflow list. If you have that process, if you have a flow with the stored workflow, if there is a flow that somehow gets into a bad error state, you can always right click it if this is working properly and actually restart the step, remove it, or you can even start the flow back up. That's if there is like an issue with the flow, like some sort of weird error, or like a restart normally occurs during, processing. Next tool that we really use a lot is the running flows list or running flows report. So this will show you any flow that's running on the environment right now and who, started the flow. It'll give you the start date as well, and it'll give you a number of steps that are, currently running on that flow. We also have the integration activity. This is really good for troubleshooting send email steps. So if there is issue, you have a process where you're sending emails and you're not receiving emails. This is really good to confirm where the issue is occurring. If a send email step fails on the decisions environment for whatever reason, you'll see that failure here with the failed reason as well. So if you're not receiving emails and you're not receiving is failed, sort of toggle here, then the next step here would be looking at your SMTP server, SMTP relay, whatever you have configured to send emails out. And the flow structure report is probably one of the most powerful tools here. This gives you every single step in every single flow on your environment. So if you're looking to see where a step is, or where, like if you receive an error and you can't find where that step is or what flow it's a part of, you can come to this report and then you can, filter by that step name, or you can, filter by the flow ID to sort of find it. Now, keep in mind, this report may take a long time to load, depending on how many flows and things you have built out in your environment. But this again gets everything on the environment, so you can search pretty much everything from here for flows and for specific steps. This really covers what I want to show for the flow management tool. Next, I want to go into logging briefly. So logging is sort of like the bread and butter of like what we do for troubleshooting. Anytime there's issues, there's errors in the process, the first thing you will almost always hear from our support team is, can we get the logs? And so normally the logs are located on the file system of the machine. If your environment is hosted by us as decisions, we won't ask that. We'll get the logs ourselves and then we'll review those for you. But if we do not host your environment, normally the logs will be located in C program files, decisions server, and there'll be a logs folder, and there'll be like primary logs. In this case, we'll be looking for, I think it's decisions.web core logs. But these are where you'll see pretty much what's the system's running. You can modify, or you can add additional logging category to be more specific to your process. Or if you already have a log category, you can enable it here. If you go to edit log settings, you'll have the use global settings option enabled, which will just do everything. Or you can then you can specify debug level information or verbose level logging, which will get a lot more data. Typically, you don't want to leave these long. This is more for if your regular logging doesn't catch something, you can enable this to sort of see that information. You can also add specific categories, like I mentioned earlier. So say you're doing some agent work or dealing with an agent, you can, enable agent logging, and then you can even control the levels here for that if needed. And if specifically you want to catch just agent logs or just a specific category, you can even choose to log to your own file. Once you do that, you'll get a new category of log in the file system that is like your log category .log. You can log usage data if you need to, and even you can specify the default size limit. So by default, the max file size is around 10 megabytes. Let me take 10 kilobytes, sorry. And then you can increase the limit. So our logs will roll over to the 10th log file, and then they'll start rolling over. But if you want to catch more data, you can, increase that to 10, 20, as much as you need to, as long as your file system can, handle that. It really covers logging. The last thing I want to cover here for the system administration tools is the profiler. And so the profiler is really good to sort of see what's running on the system currently and what's taking a lot of time. Normally, you'll see a service call boundary taking a really long time. So that is normally, pretty normal. Thread jobs also normally take a long time depending on what you have, but you can dig into this and sort of see what else is running here, right? So you can dig into the ORM layer and you can see, what queries are running on the machine, and you can see how long that's taken. And this is a really good way for you to see what on your system, if something's running slow, like a process is running slow, or your scheduled job is running slow, you can really dig in here and figure out, okay, this comes here, and you can see, and ideally like what steps would be taking a really long time. Right now, because this is just my environment, I don't have anything running here, you won't really see much, but this is a really good tool to sort of, suss out and see, check for bottlenecks. And we have our first question from Anonymous. If I have a vertical stack on a form and the first thing in there is HTML view and a second grid with label and text box, is there a way for a vertical stack to check the height of HTML and adjust so component in the stack is not overlapping or becomes sticky at the bottom? I believe the vertical stack should automatically check and, sort of adjust for the size that's being that size of the grids at design time. I don't know if it actually will change and update during runtime of the HTML. And that's the question just answered there. So does anyone have any questions about what I've just showed off as far as the system tools? That's mainly what we use in support to sort of identify and sort of troubleshoot issues that are in decisions as far as like performance and looking into like what the system is doing. Oh, one more tool. I always forget to mention it because it is still sort of newish in my mind. But we have a great tool called the Global Debugger. If you haven't used it, I would I would strongly suggest getting familiar with it because this tool is similar to our Flow and Rule Debugger, but this is for the entire platform. So you can enable it, and you'll see anything that's running on the flow during this time. So if I hop here, you'll see these just ran. If I just run this flow real quick, you can even see the flow that I just ran, and you can see that it failed here, and you can even look into this. So this is really good to sort of troubleshoot something that is, a little bit tougher to troubleshoot, like a form tile. Um, but keep in mind this can be a resource hog. So you want to, do your testing and then you want to disable it. I believe in newer versions, we add a little pop-up here to remind users that the global debugger is running. So if you do see that, you want to, come here and just shut it off so that we're not, causing the system to crash. Um, Anonymous, what's the best way to troubleshoot async flows? So in my opinion, the best way to troubleshoot async flows is to have a similar flow. Like if you have an async flow, you can't debug it and see what's happening, right? So what I would suggest there is just grabbing like a subflow and just put like using the same flow that you're using for async. And you just pick the flow that you're running as asynchronous, right? And then debug that, flow. You don't have to leave it there the entire time. You can just leave it connected for, debugging. And then once you've, figured out what the issue is, you can just draw the path back to the async, save the flow, and continue your process. How to troubleshoot JS control if it causes form to crash? So I guess it depends on for that I would check logging. So you have a JS control and you're running that and you cause your form to crash. Now, if it doesn't crash the entire platform, I would look into logging here. Go to system logging, and you can normally catch sort of issues that are occurring on your form. If you aren't seeing it with regular logging, then that's where I would suggest enabling like debug level logging at the time, or enabling specific like form categories. I wonder, do we have a JS? I don't think we have a Java. No, we do not have a Java. But normally if something's causing a form to crash or causing it to error, we should be able to catch that in the logging once we've ran that. What if an async flows? What if an async flow fails because it's running async? If a run async, it doesn't fail. If that's the case, then I would look into using jump back here, what we call it a catch exception step. Like if it is a scenario where we can't see it failing, we run it synchronously, only asynchronously, then I would use a catch exception step in conjunction with a logging step. So you can always catch an exception on once you drop this into your flow, and then you can create like you can name it a specific category. I'll just say lunch and learns. Actually, let me I could show you. Let's see. I'll just do async flow. We'll create it. Exception. And then a So we'll just create this with lunch and learns. We'll call this an error. And drop an exception message, and we'll just do exception type name. We'll drop that in, and let me see, step name as well, just to save it. And then we'll save this. Now if I did this correctly, yep, you can catch the error there. So using the catch exception in conjunction with logging to see what's happening is a great way to troubleshoot and sort of catch async errors. What if there's no X? It's just not picking up some data due to async nature. Then I would still, and then instead of the exception, I would then just I would add some logging here. So if you're getting data of like a data structure type, there is a good step you can use called serialize. I know, let me see, it's called JSON serialize, I believe. Yes. So if you have a type that's already in decisions, you can, this type is normally stored as like a JSON or is formatted in JSON format. So you have a custom type that you built in decisions, you can input that type. Say I have an account, right? I can pull in that that object of that type, and then I can serialize that into a single string. And then what I would do is just take that serialized string and then map that into a logging step to sort of track and see the data that's missing, just to confirm, hey, if I'm missing data, let me make sure one, the data I'm passing in is, still there. That's a good way of sort of tracking and sort of keeping, figuring out where we're losing data. Like if you have an idea where that's at, great. If not, I would take logs with some serialized JSON steps and sort of start sort of poking them around different flows in async steps. I would in theory, I would be dropping that in between every subflow before and after that subflow, just sort of figure out where we're losing the data, right? Because if we can then say, okay, well, the data is fine before this subflow and after this subflow, but it leaves after this subflow, then you can better start troubleshooting what's happening in between that, or if it is within another subflow. From another anonymous, in older versions of decisions, get random int in the foreach loop would have produced the same int because the iteration feed was faster than the seed for that random method. I don't know what version that is. I haven't hit that issue in newer versions, specifically version 8. Honestly, I would suggest if you're still like on an older version, we would like you to get to like a newer version, at least version 7 or version 8, so we can compare and see if that issue is still occurring. But right now, version 6 is only receiving, I believe, still only receiving like maintenance and security patches. I don't believe we're still patching or giving, or still doing like actual product updates on those older versions. Leia has a question. Is there a way to check to? Is there a way to? Is there a way in a rule check to see if certain values are duplicate? I put in a request that contains multiple names, but am evaluating a single request in each of that group. I want to check to see if that name is in the list of original entities multiple times. Let's see. In your rule, you could. There's ways to go about it. So you can sort of like there's a like you can check to. I don't know if you want to check to see if you want to remove duplicates or if you want to just confirm if there are duplicates. But there's like I think there's like a get. Is it get unique? You can get unique strings from list where you can post in your string, like you can put in your list of strings and you get a unique, you can get a list of unique strings from that list. There's also a get first, I believe. Find first in list. So this is also a way that's well, this is only a way if you want to get the first record of it. It won't return everything. So in this case, I think getting unique strings from lists would be a better way to sort of get that list. Like you can push this before the rule, or even in your rule, you can build logic within that with a converter flow. So you go create a rule. You can go into a rule and you can say, let's just call it right, a test string. We'll do test string list. You can do like list contains or list contains any, and you can then you can either select that list from a flow, so you can check to see if that list contains any, or you can run a converter to check for, like duplicate values. So you can take in that list and you can do like a conversion. You can do like not a conversion, but you can check for those duplicates prior to then passing that list in the rule, or if in the rule itself, you can then run a converter to check if those duplicates are in that list. Or you can just say if that list is, yeah, you can run a converter to check if there are any duplicates in that list. And then if it is true, then you can, return whichever values you need to there. What is the best way to confirm that two complex types are identical? That is a tricky one. In my opinion, there is a I haven't done this too often, but there is a what we call a compare object step, or compare, I guess it is a step or rule step. Or is it you can compare two objects or two text items. I thought there was another rule like that. Oh, okay, I guess it's this one. So we do have a compare two objects step, and you can map in object one, object two, and this will give us a list of data pairs to sort of compare that. But I don't know if there's a an object is no, oh, objects are equal is also another step that we can use. So you can run two objects into the objects are equals rule, and if this returns true, then you'll confirm that these are identical. If they are not, then it'll go down the false path. I believe the compare objects step, though, is I think a bit more in depth. I think it actually compares and shows you which ones are not the same, I believe. I'm not 100% on that one. I haven't touched that in a while. And that was a lot of questions. Does anyone have any other questions? Does nvelocity create a file on the system? I don't believe it does. And for anyone that doesn't know, we have an nvelocity custom merge step that we use if I want to spell it correctly. I s- So we have a custom merge and velocity step. So you can give a template of what you want to, say you have an HTML or you have some text that you just want to replace. You can um, do a merge on that. You can add your variables manually, or I think you can just denote them. I think is it the $? Yeah, you can denote a variable that way as well. I don't believe this creates a file. I believe this just spits out just the string itself. So I don't think it generates a file in the file system or anything like that. But if you do have a string, you want to store that into a file, you can just take the string. There's a convert. You can do a convert string to byte array. Once you have it converted to a byte array, you can create, what is it? You can create a file to be stored that way. And in that file, it's looking for a byte array. So you can then just take in the output of this, and then you can just store that into a file and have that stored. I believe that stores in the default file directory. So with the M velocity step, you just take in your template. So like I have test, right? And then you just map in the string that you want to get. So if you're getting data from like another step, you can just map in that string data into the variable. Now, when denoting it, I think this way, I don't think it allows you to use like a string variable. So if you want to use like a string, not a string, I'm sorry, a list variable, you can then do like test, I believe, is list, and then you can have a is list sort of input into your string. So I'm taking this string, I'm gonna pick from this create data step, string list one. I'm gonna for now just draw it to the end step, save and debug it. And this did not work, and I do not know why it didn't work properly. Oh, because I don't have an actual template, that's why. But you can do. But you can when you have the proper, template set up, like an HTML that you want to, sort of merge into like an email step, you can then use you can use that with an email step. And text merge is the difference between this and a text merge is it's more so like a merge is more like a deck object versus like a flow step. So this is just like a flow step. But if I create a text merge, you get more like a designer UI. So I can, where's the text merge at? Like here, like it is limited. I think in my opinion, it's like limited functionality. So you can, you can, create your variables here, and then you post a template here, and that's all you get. And you can only use this per step, right? With a text merge, where's those at again? No, that's not what I want. Send a report. Form. Where is that at again? Where is, let me jump back in the flow because I know you can create one. Here, pick or create text merge. This is what we're looking for. So in the text merge, you have a bit more control here. You can apply like rich text directly on it. So instead of using a already generated template, you could like basically build your template here, and then you can choose when like what data you want from a flow based on certain criteria that you've already set up. Basically, you can give the input data of your text merge here, and then this can be reused in different flows. So this is more of a versatile option. You can reuse this over and over again as needed. With an nvelocity though, that's unique just to that flow. So you'd have to like copy that step and then then paste it in other flows. But here you can just pick your text merge and then reuse that text merge over again. So I think that's probably like the biggest function that sort of separates those two. From Leia, is there a way to remove multiple items from a list instead of first, last, etc.? Yeah, there should be like a remove. Should be a remove item from list. We can move strings. Yeah, remove item from list or remove item by index. So if you know exactly which items you want to remove, or in your flow, you determine, okay, I have these duplicates, I can use item to remove to choose the string of what you want to remove. Or you can, this isn't also limited to string types. You can choose the any type that you have that's a list type. So, okay, now I have a list of accounts I want to remove. I can choose like an account I want to remove from this list of accounts. Same with this remove by index. This one's a bit more, if you know which index number, like which number item in the list that is, you can just tell, okay, I just want to remove the sixth index from this list, and that will do it. Or you can also figure out how to identify which index you need to remove, like with other flow logic. But these remove items from list steps can then help you remove what you need from the list. Let's see, does anyone else have any other questions today? All righty. Well, I don't have anything else to show you guys today. So I think I can give you guys a couple 15 minutes back. I want to thank you guys for joining us today. Next week, no, not next week. Tomorrow will be we won't be having this. So stop by again on Monday. starting at 12 p.m. And we'll have, I don't know who we have scheduled right now, but we'll have someone on to answer any questions that you guys have. Otherwise, you guys have a great rest of your day. And to anyone that is celebrating, happy Cinco de Mayo. Have a great weekend, everyone.